Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events to have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. Deadly clashes erupt in Myanmar's restive Rakhine state. Government says Rohingya rebels and troops killed as militant group launches pre-dawn attack on police posts. 71 people killed in the violence. US President warns Pakistan on providing safe havens to terror groups. Trump rules out hasty withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, pitches for a bigger role for India in bringing peace to the war-torn country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting Nepalese Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba hold summit-level talks in Delhi. 8 agreements signed between two countries in the fields of trade, security, defense and natural disasters. Kim Jong-un orders additional production of rocket engines and intercontinental ballistic missile nose cones. North Korean state media releases pictures revealing major technological advances and ambitions of Pyongyang. Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather will clash in Las Vegas in one of the most anticipated boxing matches in history. Boxing great and UFC ace finally go head-to-head at the T-Mobile Arena this weekend. At least 59 Rohingya and 12 members of Myanmar's security forces were reportedly killed in Rakhine state after a militant group launched pre-dawn raids on police posts and tried to break into an army base. The office of Myanmar's de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi announced the death toll in a statement on Friday, claiming the Rohingya killed were fighters. The statement said that an estimated 150 fighters staged coordinated attacks at around 1 a.m. in the northern Mungdaw township. The clashes came hours after a panel led by former UN Chief Kofi Annan urged Myanmar to lift restrictions on movement and citizenship for Rohingya, a persecuted Muslim minority. The Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army claimed responsibility for the attacks in a Twitter post, but did not mention casualty figures or how many fighters were involved.
We condemn we condemn in the strongest terms the series of coordinated attacks carried out against the Myanmar security forces in northern areas of Rakhine State in the early hours on 25th of August. So this is specifically on those attacks. We regret the loss of life, express deepest condolences to the bereaved families, and wish a speedy recovery to the injured. We call on all parties to refrain from violence, protect civilians, restore law and order, and resolve issues through dialogue and peaceful means.
Well, joining me for a chat this week to talk about this is Sanjay Kapoor, editor of the Hardnews. Welcome. Thank you for joining me on the program. The situation in Rakhine seems to be getting worse with each passing day. This problem has been going on for several years now. Do you see a solution in sight, especially now that the Rohingya have taken to arms and have carried out this kind of an attack?
You know, I agree with you, it's looking very bad, and especially this particular attack, which a few months after it happened, something similar happened in October last year when you had a confrontation of this sort where Rohingya extremists attacked police posts. But now this is far more serious, and it coming around the same time where Kofi Annan has presented a report where he lays out a roadmap for how things can be sorted out. And some of his advice and prescriptions are worthy of attempting. Kofi Annan was brought in by Aung San Suu Kyi after international outrage over how Rohingyas were treated. Burmese leadership recognizes them as Bengalis. They don't think they are Rohingyas, primarily because, you know, they haven't been given citizenship according to the 1982 Citizenship, Act, which has been brought in. So there is a possibility of things getting better, but it requires accommodation. First of all, the definition of Rohingya has to change. Rohingyas show themselves as indigenous people, whereas the Burmese leadership and the Burmese army or Myanmarese army, they take them as Bengali refugees. A similar kind of definition is now being used in India. I mean, if you look at it, they are the ones who have been told to leave the country and they would be deported very soon. So it's a matter of semantics. I mean, if they are going to be treated as Bengalis and Bangladeshis, they should go back to their country. But Rohingyas are insistent that they belong to the Rakhine state, they have the right to stay there, and the confrontation that they have been facing with the Buddhists in that region is something that will never get sorted out primarily. And more so, since the time you've had democracy, the small minorities really take a fair beating in all these areas because minorities don't really count. And if you look at the conduct of Aung San Suu Kyi, even at the time during the run-up to the election, despite the fact she's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, she has been rather, you can say, not so large-hearted, even talking about the violence against Rohingya. She just keeps mum on that. And when the pressure started building, she got in Kofi Annan to, put a report together, look at how things can be sorted out.
Right.
And it's a fantastic report that he has put together.
Sure. You know, when there is no country for the Rohingyas, where do they really go? Because no one seems to be wanting to accept them. You know, the Malaysians have said, okay, we'll take in a few, but they continue to be refugees till date. The UN, of course, is trying to do its bit. But do you believe that you need external intervention really to sort or to deal with this problem?
I think there is no space for poor people as it is. I mean, if you look at it, the Rohingyas are desperately poor. They only have memories, or maybe there's some past in which they could have claimed that they led a good life. But even in Myanmar, or even the refugees that you have in India or Indonesia or Malaysia, they are in a very, very bad situation. They're living in shacks and there's no hope that things are going to get better. UN has been trying to put in some kind of pressure on these countries to improve. And there is some kind of Islamic intervention also. Some of the Islamic countries are also stepping in, and which in a certain way is building up an impression that, you know, you have a process of radicalization which is taking place, which is trying to...
But because of the poverty, beyond a point, no one really is bothered, are they?
No, I don't think anybody is really bothered. And if you go through the Kofi Annan report, he cautions the Burmese leadership and rest of the world that there is a possibility of radicalization. And if you want to prevent radicalization, and the manifestation of radicalization is the Salvation Army that they have created, which has attacked, according to the Burmese authorities, on Friday morning. So if you want to prevent that, they need to be accommodated. You need to create an infrastructure, you need to provide them jobs, education. You need to do a whole lot more, and on top of that, you need to educate the rest of the Burmese society that, look here, you have to live with minorities. If you do not do that, there would be retaliation. I mean, we've seen it, how it happens in, how it happened in Sri Lanka. There was nothing that the Sinhalas wanted to give to the Tamilians, and what we saw was a grave tragedy which unfolded some years ago.
Indeed. All right, we'll have to leave to that. Sanjay, thank you so much for joining us on the program, putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you.
And moving on now, US President Donald Trump sent out a strong message to Pakistan during his address to the nation on America's Afghanistan policy. That the US can no longer be silent about terror-safe havens in Pakistan. Trump, in his speech, sought more role for India in war-torn Afghanistan.
I am here tonight to lay out our path forward in Afghanistan.
US President Donald Trump spelling out America's policy in Afghanistan.
The American people are weary of war without victory. Nowhere is this more evident than with the war in Afghanistan. The longest war in American history, 17 years. I share the American people's frustration.
Trump ruling out a hasty withdrawal of troops from the war-torn country, saying conditions on ground will, and not arbitrary timetable, will guide its strategy from now on.
A hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum that terrorists, including ISIS and Al-Qaeda, would instantly fill, just as happened before September 11th.
Laying out his Afghanistan and South Asia policy in his first primetime televised address as Commander-in-Chief, Trump said the region has the highest concentration of terror-safe havens anywhere in the world.
That the security threats we face in Afghanistan and the broader region are immense. Today, 20 U.S. designated foreign terrorist organizations are active in Afghanistan and Pakistan, the highest concentration in any region, anywhere in the world. For its part, Pakistan often gives safe haven to agents of chaos violence, and terror. The threat is worse because Pakistan and India are two nuclear-armed states whose tense relations threaten to spiral into conflict, and that could happen. No one denies that we have inherited a challenging and troubling situation in Afghanistan and South Asia, but we do not have the luxury of going back in time and making different or better decisions.
Trump used the speech to warn Pakistan to stop supporting terror safe havens.
The next pillar of our new strategy is to change the approach and how to deal with Pakistan. We can no longer be silent about Pakistan's safe havens for terrorist organizations, the Taliban, and other groups that pose a threat to the region and beyond. Pakistan has much to gain from partnering with our effort in Afghanistan. It has much to lose by continuing to harbor criminals and terrorists. In the past, Pakistan has been a valued partner. Our militaries have worked together against common enemies. The Pakistani people have suffered greatly from terrorism and extremism. We recognize those contributions and those sacrifices. But Pakistan has also sheltered the same organizations that try every single day to kill our people. We have been paying Pakistan billions and billions of dollars. At the same time, they are housing the very terrorists that we are fighting. But that will have to change, and that will change immediately. No partnership can survive a country's harboring of militants and terrorists who target U.S. service members and officials. It is time for Pakistan to demonstrate its commitment to civilization, order, and to peace.
Trump also hailed India's contribution in Afghanistan, but added its role has to be enhanced.
Another critical part of the South Asia strategy for America is to further develop its strategic partnership with India, the world's largest democracy and a key security and economic partner of the United States. We appreciate India's important contributions to stability in Afghanistan, but India makes billions of dollars in trade with the United States, and we want them to help us more with Afghanistan, especially in the area of economic assistance and development.
Trump also said that the U.S. will work in coordination with the Afghanistan government to restore peace in the region.
Military power alone will not bring peace to Afghanistan or stop the terrorist threat arising in that country. But strategically applied force aims to create the conditions for a political process to achieve a lasting peace. America will work with the Afghan government as long as we see determination and progress.
There are currently up to 8,400 American soldiers in Afghanistan. The U.S. first invaded Afghanistan in October 2001. The then Bush administration accused the country's then Taliban government of sheltering al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, who had masterminded the September 11 terrorist attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come. India and Nepal signed 8 agreements during Prime Minister Dioba's visit to India. Agreements signed in the fields of trade, security, defense and natural disasters. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome. This is Amritan Shirai and you're watching Constitutionally Yours.
Any tribal land cannot be transferred to the non-tribal.
Tribals of Tripura, they were depending on the forest.
There has been a growing demand amongst the tribal community that customary law should be.
Although they have codified customary laws, except for Tripura. So what is the initiative of the legislature?
There is no codified customary law as yet.
Watch Constitutionally Yours on Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. India and Nepal relations took a new leap with both countries vowing to address each other's concerns. Prime Minister of Nepal, Sher Bahadur Deoba, is on a 5-day state visit to India since Wednesday. Deoba is accompanied by a large official delegation as well as his wife, Arzu Deoba. India accorded him high honor by ensuring his stay at Rashtrapati Bhavan.
On Thursday, Nepalese Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba had a summit-level meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi. Both leaders had extensive talks on issues ranging from trade, security and defence, as well as natural disasters. 8 agreements were signed between the two countries in presence of both the PMs. The agreements are relating to speeding up of reconstruction efforts in Nepal and also cooperation in chartered accountants institutions and narcotics control. Special reference was also made to security and defense issues.
मुझे खुशी है कि आज जिन उस पर हस्ताक्षर किए गए हैं उनमें से 4 भूकंप के बाद पुनर्निर्माण कार्यों के लिए भारत की तरफ से किए गए $1 बिलियन की सहायता के वायदे और आगे बढ़ाएंगे। रक्षा क्षेत्र और सुरक्षा में सहयोग हमारी पार्टनरशिप का बहुत महत्वपूर्ण पहलू है। हमारे सुरक्षा हित भी एक दूसरे पर निर्भर हैं और एक दूसरे से जुड़े हुए हैं।
There are tremendous opportunities in Nepal-India relation, enormous potential in economic field, particularly in water resources, trade and investment. With the end of long political transition, Nepali people stand threshold of a new era of progress and prosperity.
Cooperation in infrastructure development was another topic of discussion between the two leaders. They dwelt upon the hurdles in speedy fulfillment of Nepal's needs, and Prime Minister Modi assured him of timely fulfillment of India-sponsored projects. Both leaders also assured that DPR on the much-awaited Pancheshwar projects would be finalized soon for hydroelectricity, which will be a win-win situation for both countries.
पहले से चल रहे हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स को तय समय सीमा में पूरा करने के लिए अपने प्रयास हम और बढ़ाएंगे। अब मुझे खुशी है कि जब देवबा जी ने मुझे बताया कि अरुण 3 के लिए नेपाल में भूमि का मामला सुलझा लिया गया है, मैं देवबा जी का धन्यवाद करता हूं कि उसके शिलान्यास के लिए उन्होंने मुझे नेपाल का निमंत्रण दिया है।
I appreciated Prime Minister Modi's neighborhood first policy and approach of the Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. We are eager to see that these encouraging policy announcements are translated into concrete and development activities.
Both Prime Ministers also stressed on connectivity as a major area of cooperation. With Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari being present during the delegation-level meeting, decisions were taken to expedite pending road projects and decide about the new roads that can connect not only India and Nepal through the borders, but also the inner roads of Nepal. China has already established itself in Nepal with its One Belt, One Road project. While India is not in competition, it does want to ensure that Nepal does not rely only on China for similar projects.
नेपाल के लोगों को और नेपाल की सरकार की प्राथमिकताओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए नेपाल के विकास में अपनी साझेदारी बढ़ाने के लिए भारत पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। इस उद्देश्य की प्राप्ति के लिए हम कई ऐसे इकोनॉमिक कनेक्टिविटी और डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स पर सहमत हुए हैं जो नेपाल की नेशनल प्रायोरिटी हैं।
2 transmission lines from Raxaul to Parvanipur and Kotaya to Kushaha from India to Nepal, each of 132 megawatts, were also launched. Earlier on Thursday, the Nepal Prime Minister and his wife were given a ceremonial reception at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. He met President Kovind and Vice President Naidu and paid respects to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, days after North Korea threatened to fire a salvo of missiles towards the US Pacific territory of Guam, its leader Kim Jong-un ordered more production of rocket engines and intercontinental ballistic missile nose cones. The state media released pictures of Kim's visit to the Chemical Material Institute of the Academy of Defense Science, revealing major technological advances and ambitions of Pyongyang.
Not long after US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson appeared to make a peace overture to Pyongyang, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered the production of more solid-fuel rocket engines. State media showed Kim visiting the Chemical Material Institute of the Academy of Defense Science on Wednesday. It claimed he instructed the institute to produce more solid-fuel rocket engines and rocket warhead tips through further expanding engine production process and the production capacity of rocket warhead tips. North Korea has conducted 2 nuclear tests and dozens of missile test launches since the start of last year. But it test launched 2 ICBMs in July, prompting denouncement and international sanctions against its efforts to manufacture a nuclear-tipped warhead. The last missile test on the 28th of July put the US mainland in range, prompting heated exchanges that raised fears of a new conflict in the peninsula. The United States has conveyed to North Korea that while the path to dialogue is still an option, Washington remains undeterred in defending any threat to its territory.
While the path to dialogue still remains an option, the United States remains undeterred in defending against the threat North Korea poses. My President's top priority remains protecting the homeland, U.S. territories, and our allies against North Korean aggression. We remain prepared to use the full range of capabilities at our disposal against the growing threat from North Korea.
However, despite multiple sanctions, North Korea says it's never going to surrender nuclear arms.
There are several nuclear weapon states in the world, but the U.S. is the only country that poses constant nuclear threat upon the DPRK. The measures taken by the DPRK to strengthen its nuclear deterrence and develop intercontinental rocket is justifiable and legitimate option for self-defense in the face of such apparent and real threat.
Amid weeks of heightened tension on the Korean peninsula, South Korea and the United States are conducting annual joint drills involving computer simulations of a possible war. On Wednesday, South Korea also staged a 20-minute-long nationwide civil defense drill, which was also broadcast live for the first time in 2 years to raise public awareness. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a quick roundup of some other international news in Globe Watch.
Typhoon Hato, the strongest to hit southern China in 53 years, left a trail of death and destruction in the region. Macau and Hong Kong bore the brunt of the storm that claimed at least 16 lives and injured over 150 others. Macau remained without electricity even 24 hours after the typhoon made landfall. Macau officials said it was the strongest storm recorded in more than 50 years and had a severe impact across the city. Air services have been resumed partially in Hong Kong, though rail and road traffic remain affected due to massive flooding. The death toll from the flood and mudslide disaster that struck Sierra Leone's capital in the mid-August now exceeds 500 and 810 people are listed as missing. This was announced by Vice President Victor Bocarefo at a ceremony to receive relief supplies provided by Japan. The city of Freetown, capital of one of the world's poorest countries, was struck by devastating floods and a mudslide on the night of 13 and 14th August. Qatar restored full diplomatic relations with Iran in defiance of 4 other Arab nations who have demanded it curb ties with the Islamic Republic. The Emirate recalled its ambassador in 2016 when Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran were attacked after Saudi Arabia executed a leading Shia Muslim cleric. But Qatar now wants to strengthen bilateral relations in all fields. Iran and Qatar cope with the trade and travel restrictions imposed by its powerful neighbors since June. The Nigerian army on Thursday said that 68 Boko Haram terrorists have surrendered in Borno in the last 3 weeks. This comes in the wake of an intense and sustained bombardment of Boko Haram hideouts as well as foiling of logistics supply activities by the Nigerian army in the region. The Boko Haram insurgency has caused about 1 lakh deaths since 2009.
Well, let's now shift gears and bring you up to speed with all the sports news you might have missed in sports action. Champions League holders Real Madrid will face Borussia Dortmund and Tottenham in a difficult group following the draw ceremony in Monaco on Thursday. Barcelona did not get an easy pass either, as they were drawn against Juventus, Olympiacos and Sporting in Group D. Aside from Spurs, English teams received slightly easier draws, with Chelsea's matchup with Atletico Madrid among the more challenging matchups, while Liverpool will face Sevilla. Manchester United will face Benfica, FC Basel and CSKA Moscow in Group A, while Manchester City get Shakhtar Donetsk, Napoli and Feyenoord in Group F. Real Madrid forward Cristiano Ronaldo has been named as UEFA's Player of the Year, beating Lionel Messi and Juventus keeper Gianluigi Buffon to the prize. Ronaldo helped Madrid to a second consecutive Champions League title and finished as the tournament's top scorer with 12 goals last season. The Portugal international has now won the award 3 times, one more than Barcelona's Messi. Barca's Netherlands midfielder Lieke Martens won the women's prize. Martens was instrumental in her country's European Championship victory this summer, where she was named player of the tournament. American boxing star Floyd Mayweather and UFC star Conor McGregor will not be fighting for just the money in the much-awaited battle to take place on August 26th. In fact, the winner will also be getting the money belt created by the World Boxing Council for this weekend's 154-pound showdown. The money belt is made of 1.5 kilograms of 24-karat gold, 3,360 diamonds, 600 sapphires, 160 emeralds and crocodile leather. A similar kind of belt was created by the WBC for Mayweather's 2015 bout with Manny Pacquiao. Great Britain's Mo Farah won a thrilling 5,000 meters in the final track race of his career at the Diamond League event in Zurich. The 34-year-old, who has 4 Olympic titles, will concentrate on road races. Chased down in the final 100 meters by Ethiopia's new world champion Mukhtar Idris, Farah won narrowly in a time of 13 minutes 6.05 seconds. American Paul Chelimo was second, as Idris, Farah's conqueror at London 2017, fell diving for the line. South Africa's Faf du Plessis will lead the World 11 in a 3-match T20 series against Pakistan to be played in Lahore next month. The first 2 T20 internationals will be played on September 12th and 13th, and the final game will be played on September 15th at the Gaddafi Stadium. Pakistan Cricket Board Chairman Najam Sethi confirmed the news in a press conference on Thursday. The World 11 includes 5 players from South Africa, 3 from Australia, 2 from the Windies and 1 each from Bangladesh, England, New Zealand and Sri Lanka. And finally, millions of awestruck Americans cast their gaze skyward on Monday at the extraordinary sight of a total solar eclipse. Videos and photos shared on social media showed people's excitement towards the first total eclipse in a century to sweep across the United States from coast to coast. I'm going to leave you with these time-lapse visuals from the United States. Until next time, this is Frank Pereira.